So Saturday was a big day. Saturday was the first full day at the con. There was a game that I was running that day, Pendragon, which I had been anticipating running for quite some time. Had done a lot of reading, research, and prep for it to get ready for it because I'm a big fan of the game. I'm also a big fan of the people who are currently producing the 6th edition, and I wanted to do it justice. So much so that David Larkin, the key holder to the Kingdom of Pendragon, ran a game for me and my other friends, and Keith on the Titterpigs podcast, the exact adventure that I was going to be running. So it was a nice way to garner a foundation to run it for the convention. So first off, the boys they went to go play a game, and it was a version of Mork Borg. And this particular Mork Borg game was set in the Elden Ring role-playing or Elden Ring video game universe or setting, I should say. The boys themselves, they're big fans of the Elden Ring game. My son has played that game over and over again. He is a new game plus. He's a giant fan of all the From Software settings, and he has played them inside and out. And likewise, his friend Zane also, and they were excited for this. So come to find out, once I had met with them after I had ran my game of Pendragon, which I will get to in a moment, that they had an incredible time. The GM running it, they said he did an exceptional job. They do the only thing that and I wouldn't call it negative, but the only thing they did mention about it is as far as the Elden Ring setting was concerned, it kind of felt like it was just kind of like a car wrap. There wasn't a lot of things that was added to the game itself to make it more personalized for Elden Ring. It was just kind of like, what if Mork Borg, but in Elden Ring? So you were still technically playing a Mork Borg game. It just maybe the setting pieces were familiar with Elden Ring, but it didn't take away from the game at all. And in fact, I had met the GM later that evening when myself and some friends were hanging out in the pub at the hotel, and had thanked him immensely. And he was very gracious, and he loved to hear the fact that the boys loved the game. And it kind of sound like that he gave them a bit of extra special attention, which is always great to hear. Not just with your own children and their friends, but anyone who has a children at their table in a convention. I feel you kind of want to give them a bit of extra attention in regardless of the game that you're running. So Pendragon. Pendragon 6th edition, the Quickstart, comes with an adventure called The Adventure of the Sword Tournament. It is designed to walk the GM through, like many Quickstarts are, through the particular rules and dynamics of this particular role-playing game. And so it does touch upon a lot of rules that wouldn't necessarily be utilized in this particular adventure, but at least they give you a general idea. There's things that you are going to be providing to your players so they understand how the game works, but some of those mechanics won't necessarily be touched upon. The game itself, come to find out, is part of a set of adventures that are going to be coming out in the Pendragon starter set, the box set that's coming out. And so you'll find out that there's certain things within the game itself that myself personally, and the players themselves also that I had played with, feel that this would work great if they were running the actual box set, if they were continuing on past this particular adventure and moving forward into the other ones that were provided as they go through this set piece of the beginning of the Arthurian age. Well, the beginning of King Arthur as he moves from obscurity into the early days of what he becomes. But the game itself takes place in Londinium. You are part of a group of knights that are traveling there, representing your current liege. If you have someone that you are part of, or you're looking for someone to join up with, depending on the player character that you choose, the pre-generated characters, I should say. And the whole story is set as this is the tournament to decide the new King of England. King Uther has been gone for many years. And so, the knights of the land have come together to say, enough is enough. No one's pulling this sword out of the stone. This is but a legend. This is never going to happen, but we need someone to rule the land. And therefore, this tournament is to decide who that is going to be. For those of you who are familiar with the Arthurian legends, you already know where this is going. First and foremost part is you're provided with a bunch of pre-generated characters which were designed for the starter set. Now, it is full of wonderful information. It is full of many different things, from the variety mechanics of the game to things that your character has to personality traits and so on. 90% of it you don't use. And granted, I know it would be too much to wish for, but one of the things that the player said after the game is that it was a bit distracting, that there was these things that were never going to be utilized. They understand, but they do feel like it probably would have been better off if the sheets themselves just had the stuff that you were going to be using within the game, so they kind of didn't get distracted or felt like that they were focused on things that were unnecessary. Now, of course, as a GM, that's my job to keep their attention focused on the things that are pertinent within the game. But I get their point. It's in a perfect universe, that's how the sheets would have been designed and the information upon the sheet. But it was kind of a little minor niggling from the players. So the scenario itself, as stated, takes place in Londinium, and it highlights some of the beginning events that occurred during the beginning days of Arthur, right before he pulls the sword out of the stone. As stated earlier, big spoilers, but you're going to figure it out if you have any sort of knowledge of how the legend of King Arthur works. And these little moments, these little interstitial moments that you play witness to, aren't designed for the player characters to react to. They're kind of like little trailer scenes, little captions in the background, like, "Oh, look, you hear Sir Kay berating Arthur for forgetting his sword," or you witness Arthur struggling with a beggar as he stops someone stealing the coin purse away from someone, highlighting his sense of honor and truth. And so, but during these times, the player characters get a little random event as they wander around the streets of Londinium. They get a little bit of a role-playing aspect in regards to that. And then the following day, they get to take place in the tournament. And the tournament itself highlights the combat mechanics of the role-playing game, but only slightly, because it's designed to just kind of get your players a taste of it, around maybe two if you're generous, if you're trying to stretch out the game a bit. But then the events occur where Arthur pulls the sword out of the stone, and likewise the events that follow that between the other knights, as some decree that Arthur is the king, others don't. There's a bit of a row during that time, and then the division occurs, and you either decide to accept Arthur as the boy king, or you can decide not to and go the other direction. And that's pretty much the scenario. It's like I said, it's designed to give you a taste of it, but in hindsight, I do feel that as far as a convention game is concerned, it seems like I wish I had time and probably should have had the foresight to maybe add a little bit more to it. Like there's a beautiful Londinium map that I printed out, but unfortunately there's no details of it within the Quickstart. I assume there's going to be in the starter set that you can read upon as you're doing this adventure, but there's quite literally nothing there. There's a random events table, which are wonderful and great, that you can roll for as they make their way around, but it did leave the players at the table felt like there was a bit lacking from it, and some of it is obviously going to be on my part because I should have foresaw that. With the current trend of movies these days, this kind of felt like a teaser trailer of a trailer. There was enough to garner your interest, but not enough to really make a decision about the game itself. So. But that was explained. That was explained to the players. They understood it, and at the very least, at least some of the players walked away saying that they enjoyed it. And there was someone there who was a Pendragon fan. They brought their own Pendragon, second edition book or whatever. And there was a talk of some of the comparisons between that and the new rules and whatnot. And he wasn't 100% sure if he liked the rule changes, but he would definitely make a better decision when he could sit down with the starter set and play the game in its in the full aspect of the game. Now, I'm not going to get into it, but there was another situation with Pendragon that involved the Legend of Red Hat Guy, but I'm not in a position to sit here for another hour and discuss that. If you've been in the Midchester Arms or one of the many chat sessions with Keith, you already know about it. But if you'd like to know more about the Red Hat Guy incident, hop into the Midchester Arms on a Friday afternoon or evening, depending where you are in the world, and I'll be more than happy to regale you with what that's all about. So enough said with that. I did pick up a few things. I picked up the Grim role-playing game by Fantasy Flight Games. I did pick up the Dragonlance Atlas, the old school one from back in the day. A beautiful book if you can get your hands on it. Likewise, the one for Forgotten Realms by the same artist. That wasn't there, but I did grab this one. But also got a copy of Supernatural, which is a game that I've been trying to get for a while now. Love the series. Love the idea of playing within that universe. I'll find out if the game is worth it or not. And some people have different opinions about it, but that particular game is relatively rare and was always cost prohibitive. But this particular gent was selling these games for $10, $15, $20 maybe at the most, other than the these super high-end ones. I mean, he was selling the second edition Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea for like $15. I mean, it was insane. And everything was bought up relatively quickly. But the highlight of it is even though I wanted to, was considering getting the Ghostbusters game, when I returned to him later, it was sold. But come to find out that my buddy Darren, who, as stated earlier, owns Critical Hit Games and has a booth over in the corner, heard me talking about it and kind of, speaking about this as a game that I would love to get. And this is a game that I've never played, but everyone speaks very highly of it. Well, he took a moment of his time. He purchased the game, put it in my GM bag, was hidden very well, and I didn't find it for some time, but eventually when I did, out it popped with a note saying, "Happy birthday." It was a belated birthday present, so it was a very generous gift. And the best thing I can do is learn the game and play a session or two with him to see how great this game could be. So that was pretty much my the highlights of my purchases at the vendors hall, and that kind of wrapped up the day. The boys were tired. They had another game they were supposed to sign up to, but they just didn't feel like doing that, so they went back to the hotel and chilled and horsed around there for a bit. And I was supposed to go to the Blade Runner role-playing game, but got sidetracked having drinks with my friends, as you tend to do, and had a wonderful evening with drinks and chatting in the pub about games and life and everything else. And I think I had also convinced my my friend's girlfriend that she should really go play the Thirsty Sword Lesbians game the next day, which she said she would definitely check out. So hey, there you go. So that is it for Saturday, day 2. Next up, Sunday.